Warning. Listening to this show may result in increased levels of inspiration, motivation, and innovation. Side effects can include the immediate urge to take massive action to build a better business and life for yourself and others. You've been warned. Welcome to Influencers Radio with your host, Jack Mize.
Welcome back to another episode of Influencers Radio. And today I'm going to tell you, you always hear, when these fascinating stories and you say, you couldn't make stuff like this up. And that's exactly what we have today on Influencers Radio. And when this first came across my computer screen and I saw this, it had me from, the second I saw the picture and saw the premise, but the further I dug into it, the more it drew me in. It is incredible. Anybody that is into reality shows, into episodic TV comedies, if you get drawn into this, you need to keep Sunday, September 7th open for a marathon, because it is going to be the debut of the specials here in the U.S. on the Oprah Winfrey's network, OWN. And let me tell you a little bit about the premise of this, and then we're going to talk to the creators of this show. So first, let me say that the only way I can describe this is a cross between Friends and the real world. And you say, okay, well, so what? What's the big deal about this? Well, it has a little bit of a twist that the cast of this show, Hilly, Sam, Megan, Lewis, Lucy, they all live together, but they all have intellectual disabilities. And what I mean, the majority of the cast, 4 out of the 5 have what most people commonly know as Down syndrome. They all have intellectual disabilities, but they are living together and going to college, working, and having a lot of the same drama that you would expect on any type of reality show. But it is just absolutely fascinating to watch how this unfolds, and the way that they conduct themselves is far better and greater than if you've ever watched the Duck Dynasty or Honey Boo Boo. It's just an incredible contrast to this. However, one of the things that really grabbed me as I dug into this is the story behind the show and how this show came to be and its creation and the struggles. And that's where I want to begin with our guest, Katy Locke and Daniel May. Katy, Daniel, welcome to Influencers Radio.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us on.
Well, thank you for coming on, because, this is going to be one of those shows that I'm glued to. And they talk about, consumption TV or addiction. I can't remember what the term is. That's what I'm going to be Sunday is I'm going to hate when it's over, because you do have the marathon coming out on September 7th. Right there on OWN, and I'm going to watch it from beginning to end. But let's talk about this. So we have this show of these folks living together. Again, Hilly, Sam, Megan, Lewis, Lucy, and we're going to get into them in a minute. But first, I want to talk about how this came to be. And Katy, you're kind of the one that came across this and really began to push this show through. Tell me how it started, and first, how these folks came together to be living in this house community, kind of conducting themselves more maturely than a lot of people of their age do when they get in that situation.
Right. Well, Hilly, she's one of the main people in the house, and her mum and dad, when she was getting to the age where she wanted to move out of home, started to look around for options for her. And what they soon realized was that it's very hard to find a home for someone. It's often the case that they have to go and be moved into a supported living home and share with people they've never even met before. So they felt really strongly they didn't want this for their daughter. So they set up a home so she can live with her friends. And so that's what she does. She lives with the other guys, and she's known them since she was about 5 years old. Now, I was brought in, they were living together about 2 years, and they were all doing really well. And I was brought in by another TV company who wanted to make a series about the guys, and I shot a pilot. It was great. I loved filming the guys. They were so funny and so open. And we all loved the pilot. But unfortunately, Channel 4, who were looking at commissioning it, they decided against it in the end. So I was gutted. I just really wanted to make this show. I thought it belonged on TV.
Well, I want to jump in real quick because one thing I failed to mention is this all is in the UK. This originated in the UK, and Channel 4. That would be the channel over there that you were trying to put this in. And one of the things is the difficulty of this. A lot of people, there's assisted living and things like that in the US, but in the UK, from what I understand, this is a kind of an unusual circumstance for the way that this came together.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, normally you get placed by social services, as we call them over here. And it's much harder to sort of like live with your friends. But I think since Cal and David did set this up, that's Hilly's parents a few years ago now, more and more parents are being inspired by the show to set up houses like this. And so it is possible, but it's very hard work. So often people do end up living with strangers. And, that's not what you do. When you're 20 years old, you want to live with your mates and you want to go to the pub with your friends and you want to connect with the people you share your life with. And that's what was made possible by their parents. All
right. So you came in, they're shooting a pilot for this because they obviously see that this is kind of a fascinating, social, culture difference, that's going on that someone will want to see. And there's interesting things that are unfolding here. So you came in to shoot the pilot. And what did you think as you watched this unfold? Was this your first, when you first saw the premise and saw the potential of what this was, what was your feelings around that?
I mean, to be honest, the main thing is apart from finding this incredible house and the way it was run, the guys were all just brilliant individuals. They were really funny. They were very close. They were always going out and doing different things. And it just seemed that what I loved most about it was that after being with them a very short time, I forgot about their disability, or at least that wasn't at the forefront. It was more focused on what they were doing, what they were saying. And I think that's what was great about them, is that they live so much at the center of mainstream society, and they go out to all the pubs and the clubs, and their lives are so much as any 20-year-old would be. And that's what I loved, was that I got beyond the disability because they don't talk about it. That's not what they're thinking about.
Yeah. And it looks to me like, that they all live. It's pretty much what you see is what you get, which is a lot of difference from a lot of reality shows where, this person has an agenda. That's the core. That's the premise. That's what they hope is happening. They want the conflict. And of course, there's conflict here. Yeah, we'll talk about the conflict, but it's all genuine. There's no agenda behind it. It's just, that's the way it's played out, which I think is one of the things that is just incredibly addictive, about this. So you went through putting this pilot together, and then they decided that it wasn't something they wanted to put out at the time. What did that do to you?
Well, it was so sad. I mean, I've been in TV at that point. I've been in for about 12 years, making lots of different shows, lots of formatted shows, lots of observational shows, which, as you described, people will try and play to a certain agenda. And with this show, you didn't have to do that because the guys just are interesting anyway. And you couldn't if you wanted to, because they wouldn't react to that kind of producing. So it was such a genuinely brilliant show. And I just couldn't imagine going back to the other programs I normally make and leaving this kind of gem behind in the dirt. It was just too sad.
Well, yeah, you brought up a very important point. I want to put a spotlight on this because, most people, when they think about reality shows, they watch the Honey Boo Boos and the Duck Dynasties and the Pawn and all of this. And the one thing that people learn very, very quickly, if they have, any ability to sense this stuff, is that it's all so contrived, right? The situations, the conflicts are set up. It is. And like you pointed out, even if you brought them a scenario that you wanted them to play out, their willingness to participate would be what? 0% to play out a scenario that you contrived?
Yeah, it would be quite obvious that they weren't really in the moment. They couldn't pretend. They wouldn't do that. And to be fair, I wouldn't normally do that on other shows, but I just think you would kind of maybe encourage certain things to happen in terms of conversations you might have, which you wouldn't do with these guys.
Yeah, and that's what I think makes us unique is because is one of the truly honest. You know, you're not seeing anything contrived. It's as it happens, is as it unfolds. So that's what makes it. I think it drew me in so incredibly quickly with that. So most people at that point, we're not going to do it. Pilot's over. They go on about their business and move on to other projects, and that's life. That's show business, right? You did it a little bit differently. That's what I feel your influencers in this. You didn't let that end right there. You pushed through to make something happen because you felt very strongly about this, what you saw. I want to find out kind of what you felt about this and what made you say, you know what? No, this isn't the end. Well, let's make something happen.
Well, I actually went to the pub to drown my sorrow. So I had kind of given up on it, to be honest. But luckily, my fiance Dan had other ideas. So I'll hand you over to him on this one.
Hi there. So as Katy said, we went out to the pub to, for Katy to drown her sorrows because I'd never seen her so down after, a TV knockback like this, because it happens from time to time. But she said, this is the most fantastic thing I've ever worked on. I can't believe that, we're not going to make this. And I come from a sort of computer programming background. I haven't had anything to do with TV before this. And so I said, well, these days, surely we can just make it ourselves and put it out on the web. How hard can it be? And so, that's what we decided to do right there and then is we said, let's just make this ourselves.
And it was the right time. I mean, obviously that couldn't have happened 10 years ago, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, these days you actually can do this. Whereas like, as you say, 10 years ago, you just wouldn't have been able to do it. All the equipment would have been, far too expensive and, you wouldn't have been able to edit it yourself and, do all the sound yourself, which is, what we've been able to do in our spare bedroom.
Yeah, that's that right there is amazing. But I want to know, did you actually come up with this idea to discuss it while you were at the pub?
It was at the pub that Dan said, let's do it ourselves. Yeah.
And how many beers had you had at that point?
I think we were probably about, 3 pints in each. Yeah. So suitably lubricated.
Okay. And so the next day, did you think, well, what were we thinking? Or did you think, wow, we really had a great idea there?
No, we didn't actually ever waver at that point. We really believed we could do it. We had lots of things we had to sort out because obviously that was, me and Dan then had a shared, idea, but then we had to go back to the guys in the house and to their parents and to Carol and David who run the house. And then we also had to go to the company who had made the pilot for because, it was their original idea and sort of check that everybody was on board.
Okay. So to make sure you didn't have any rights issues or anything like that, was it a tough sell to any of those, to either the housemates or the folks that put the pilot together?
No, I mean, first of all, we went and spoke to Cal and David and the guys, and they really loved the show, and they were so gutted it wasn't happening too. Because from their point of view, if you think that, on telly there was never shows about people like them, or if they were always shows about, isn't it sad, or how do they cope? And it was always a bit like peering into their world, whereas this is them sharing their world. So they really wanted this. So they were easy in the sense that we all wanted the same thing, and they understood we wanted to do it as a collaboration with them. The going back to the company, they were great as well, to be honest. They were still gutted, and we always said, if we could ever get it away and get it to be successful enough that then it would come back to the UK, we would go back to them. So they maintained a good relationship with us at that point, and they said, yeah, we'll go for it.
All right. So once you had that, and so day one, when you say, all right, it's time to roll up our sleeves and get this done, how did that go? Because from what I understand, Daniel, even though, you're the programmer as far as, putting this technology together, but from what I understand, the housemates even kind of got together and were instrumental or actively participated in putting this website and the things that house this show together.
Yeah, that's right. So, one thing that I think really helps this show is the fact that it has been such a collaboration between ourselves and the guys in the house and also, you know, the families of the guys in the house as well. So one thing we were kind of, you know, really keen on was trying to make sure that it was something that everybody was happy with. Nobody felt like they were, you know, weren't involved. Everyone, you know, felt that they had a stake in it. And so, for instance, you know, with the website and whatnot, we went down there and we would, you know, show all the guys our designs, and they would pick out their favorite pictures and, you know, make suggestions about which, you know, how they, what version of the design they liked, what bits they liked, what bits they didn't. And so that was, you know, that was really a really nice way of working. And it's amazing how that they're able to really engage with it and just, you know, give you ideas. And I think it just creates a much more sort of communal sort of project because of that.
So, you know, what happens oftentimes with folks that, especially in the technology world, and people putting together websites and web shows, you know, you have all the mechanics down. You know, you got you shoot the shows, you have the videos, you upload it, the site is live, and then it's time to say, okay, we're on. And then oftentimes people, it's crickets. You know, what now? Okay, here's the show. It's on. How do we get people to watch this? How did that work?
Well, that was it was interesting because we were just towards the end of sort of shooting the series. The series 1 was shot quite quickly. We shot it in about 4 months because just so much happened in that time. We knew we kind of had it. We were just away shooting the final scenes, which were in Malta in season 1. And during that time, when the guys were at the beach, sometimes I'd be there sending off press releases. So we created a great press release and really sold the show as being the show that was being made kind of in spite of the fact that people didn't buy into it in TV, and we felt it still had a mission and still something to share. So we kind of talked about the show in those terms, and we just sent press releases out. And to be honest with you, so many people were interested. The BBC were interested in terms of covering it on their radio shows. We got national press, and we just managed to get people excited by the idea of a web series that was made to a very high standard, because, you know, there is a lot of stuff on the web, but there's a lot of rubbish on the web too sometimes, in terms of, you know, or used to be more so. I think now it's getting better and better. So we wanted to sort of sell this as a truly, you know, high quality, fascinating product that you couldn't get on TV. And so people got behind that.
Okay, so that was 2009, right? That you put up the first season of this, that you made this happen, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay,
so you got some push behind it. The local media was covering it there in the UK, and so, you know, what were the results? What kind of traction did it get at that point then?
You know, I don't really know if we know how many. We didn't really count the hits, but we did. I would say that we got, you know, a good. We got tens of thousands watching it.
Yeah, I would say, we got tens of thousands of you know, of viewers, regular viewers.
So certainly enough for you to say, okay, this has some legs. People are interested.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Yeah, we definitely got the sense that it got some legs. And it's one of the funny thing with doing things on the web is that, of course, you don't have kind of like with TV, you know, the show goes out and immediately, you know, everyone sort of responds to it. And these days, you know, you'd follow it on Twitter and Facebook, and, you know, you get kind of immediate feedback. But with the website, you know, people sort of discover it slowly. And so we'd kind of, you know, once a week or something, you kind of get an email through from someone. They say, "Oh, I've just discovered your web show. It's amazing. You know, it made me cry. You know, I've got a young baby with Down syndrome, and, you know, you've given me hope for the future." And you get all these lovely messages like this back, you know, and that would give you a lift, and you think, yeah, we should keep doing this. Yeah. And, you know, then, you know, we'd find out that, you know, it was used at sort of like a university to teach a disability studies course, you know, where they're sort of using it as part of their coursework. And, you know, funny little things like that. You just get these little pieces that come through in a steady stream.
That's one thing that's great about the internet, is with the TV, I've made loads of shows that were great, and then they're on and then they're gone again. You know, perhaps a bit watched on catch up, but on the web, it just hangs around for years and years. So, you know, that's great in a way that it can kind of stay there. Longevity. Yeah, longevity.
Yeah, well, it doesn't sound like you had to wait too long on that, because you, like 4 months after you put up your last episode on there, you were like nominated for awards, for Webby Awards, for reality and documentary. How did that, that news come to you? I mean, did it make you feel like, we're really on to something? Was it a surprise? How did you get that news?
Well, we decided to enter the Webby Awards. You have to kind of fill in a form, but we assume that thousands of people enter the awards, and then we got an email saying you've been shortlisted. Can you send us a little highlights package? So we sent that over to America, keeping our fingers crossed. Mm-hmm. And then
we started a bit of a campaign as well, and got the guys to do little sort of campaigning videos. Please vote for us. That sort of stuff. At that
point, we'd only been we were just waiting to find out if we ever made it to the final 5, and then we got then we became finalists, and then you had to have a campaign, as Dan said, with people trying to vote for you. So we won both of them. We won the People's Choice, but also we won the one where they select it by the Academy. So that was amazing.
And so those are highs. I mean, people would see that and they feel, these are highs. This is really working out. You put your blood, sweat, tears, heart, soul into making this happen. And then you realized, hey, we need to figure out how to buy food and pay rent. Correct?
You're right.
So that kind of takes the winds out of your sails a little bit, right?
You're so right. Because, we hadn't really talked about monetizing in season 1. We just put it on the web, and we didn't want any ads on the page because we didn't think they looked very pretty. We just were all about making the show look great and the website look great. And we kind of wanted it to be something that would be watched and then see what happened after that. So yeah, the Webby Award, we thought, we're onto something. People are loving it. What's going to happen next? And the answer was nothing. So we kind of went back to our day jobs at that point.
Because you had to have money to go back to the pub and drown your sorrows on that again.
Exactly. Yeah, you gotta have some source of beer money.
So you went through some ups and downs. You want to talk about peaks and valleys of this, So the day that you decided, or when you realized, hey, we need to go back, we need to work, we need to make this happen, was it something that you say, well, we're going to continue working on this, or this was a nice ride, we'll leave it out there for prosperity? Where did you leave it at then once you made the decision or came to the realization that, this isn't going to pay our bills right now? We
were pretty sad about the idea of not filming the guys again. And I think in our hearts, we always hoped that we would return to them. But yeah, we knew the website, we would leave that up so people would still be able to discover the show and could still use it and watch it whenever they wanted to. So it was still there. It wasn't gone. But yeah, it was very sad to go back. I went back and made a show about pregnant ladies who smoke and drink too much, and how they have to stop doing that.
Oh.
So I was like doing that kind of program. So I was missing the specials, yes.
And so the next thing that happens is what happens? You get a call, you get out of the blue. Was it something like that where you get some news of some interest, and not just casual interest, but some pretty heavy hitters interest?
Well, yeah, that's a funny story because we, as Katy said, we were, really sad to have left the specials behind. And so we had just begun to talk about, look, maybe we can, after we've been back at working for a bit, we got a bit of money together. We said, look, maybe there's a way we can scrape together enough and try and monetize the website so we can make a second season. And we'd just gone down to Brighton to chat to the guys about it. So we went out to the pub with them. Again, the pubs seem to feature quite heavily in this story, don't they? And we talked, I remember saying to Sam, how would you feel about us doing a second season? And he turned to me and he said, I would love it. I would really love it. So, with that, we went back, got on the train. And just then, as we were just leaving the station, an email came through on Katy's phone.
And it was from, it says, I'm contacting you from the office of Carolyn Strauss, HBO. So we were like, HBO? Oh my goodness. And then we looked up Carolyn Strauss, and of course she is a former head of HBO Entertainment and had commissioned The Wire and The Sopranos, and of course these are all the shows we love. And we thought, my goodness, we couldn't think of anybody we'd rather get a email from. So we were very happy. We were also slightly drunk, so we did wonder if we were imagining things.
I do see a common theme here. And even the highlights I've seen of the show, it seems like the housemates are in the pub a bit. So I don't know how much if that's influencing from you.
Always at an angle. Have you noticed that?
I thought I heard some glasses clinking as we're talking too. So I don't know.
It's our team, Meg.
Well, so and this isn't something that happened like 2 weeks later. This is like 10 months have gone by with no real.
I think it's 2011 that Carolyn got in touch with us.
Yeah, so almost a year after.
Well, yeah, I mean, over a year and a half on. So we really had, like, we'd won the Webby Award, and almost a year later, we got the call. So it wasn't an overnight success. But she was amazing, and she told us she phoned us up, and she was incredibly lovely on the phone and just said all the right things about the show. Really loved it, really got it. And she explained, because she was now executive producer of Game of Thrones, and she explained that her and DB Weiss, who's the creator of Game of Thrones, had been watching our show whilst editing their show. And they said they just loved it, and they were getting calls about episode 8 of Game of Thrones, and they says, we're watching the specials.
Because they're so similar, right? It's
Exactly. The crossover is obvious, isn't it?
Yeah. Same audience, same demographic, I guess.
Exactly. So that was just, it was lovely to hear that. I mean, it meant so much just to know that somebody, like that had seen the show and got it and could see the value in it, because that was the thing, is that people with learning disabilities or intellectual disabilities and their families, they obviously are interested in this. But what we really love is when people in the mainstream suddenly see this show and realize how compelling it is. And so to hear that from her was just incredible.
All right. So we've talked about you being on the roller coaster through this, and now we start in the click, click, click going up again, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about, from that point to where you are right now. That had to be something where you went over the curve of the roller coaster, and things changed probably fairly quickly, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's right. So, after the conversation with Carolyn, she then was talking with Rosie O'Donnell, who she knew, and Rosie O'Donnell had seen the show as well, and she thought it was terrific. And through her, they went and contacted Oprah Winfrey, and it was Oprah Winfrey. After a while, had a look at the show. She said it was terrific as well, and I remember we got an email from Carolyn, and it said, Oprah loves the show. It's go, go, go.
Wow. Oprah. Now, I've heard of Oprah. I have.
You heard of Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah. So that had to be a tremendous, this isn't going from, here's a web episode that we've uploaded, to Oprah says go, go, go.
Yeah, that was...
Was it back to the pub?
It wasn't. Actually, I tell you where we were. We were in our front room, and I think it was a late night tea drinking session. So we were sober, but we were just sat there just... with our hearts, I remember my heart was thumping quite hard at that point.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, we couldn't get to sleep that night.
And so you were able to, from what I see, you were able to take what you had shot and be able to use that, put it together to very quickly, I guess you were able to put that together into, what were they 10-minute episodes for the web show? Was that what it was? They were 10-minute?
Yeah. 10 minuters.
All right. And you were able to turn that in and kind of put those together for a more traditional length TV show, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's what they asked us to do. They said, could you sort of like reversion them then into like half-hour shows? So we made 6 half-hour shows out of the web series and revoiced it. We had to kind of like up our production values a bit in terms of the voiceover recording and in terms of all the post-production. So that took quite a bit of work, actually. It wasn't a quick thing. So we did that. And then also at the same time, they asked us for a second season. So we started shooting season 2. So that was like 2 years on in the guys' lives. So much had changed. And we were, very involved in both making season 1 and also shooting season 2. And that went on for about a year, 2 years.
Now, I have to meddle a little bit. Did Oprah, did she write a check? Were you able to quit your jobs at this point to focus on this? Or did, I'm not, from what I understand, she has a few bucks, so I don't know.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. Well, what happened was that she did write a check, but we didn't sell what's called a full commission. What we did is we sold a license, because when, you know, we were a little bit worried initially, I guess, of, you know, dealing with big, you know, American corporate companies. You know, you hear horror stories, and we were very nervous, and we were very protective of the guys. And, you know, thinking, right, well, we must, you know, we've got to stay in control. We don't want the ethos of the show to change. We want to make sure that the guys still get to do their voiceover. You know, it's still, you know, the spirit of the show is preserved. And so we just sold a license, which meant that we, you know, maintained that control. But what I must say at this point as well is that when we first sold that license, we said that we would be able to probably make season 2 in 6 months or so, and it would come quite quickly. And, you know, we imagined it would be a similar process when we shot the first season, but actually it took much, much longer. It took almost 2 years, really. And the Oprah Winfrey Network were amazing throughout. They were incredibly patient. They never, they never sort of, you know, said, right, come on, we've got to have it now. They just waited and waited. They really were amazing through it, really. And
also they really got the show. We were kind of worried that maybe people might not like the title, or might try and, like Dan says, take away the fact the guys do the voiceover. Because I understand over there, even EastEnders is subtitled. So it's not just people with intellectual disabilities who might be hard to understand. So we were worried that things might be changed. But actually, they didn't change anything, and if anything, they encouraged us to stay on the path that we were on, and they were very supportive. Yeah. So all of our worries and the reasons we kept it to ourselves and maintained control weren't borne out. Actually, they were great. But at the same time, what's good about us only selling a license is that it's meant that we can make sure the show can be seen in other countries around the world. You know, and also if we can't sell it in a certain country, ultimately put it on the web there.
Yeah, well, I think you're definitely on the right track for this, and what a way to start. You know, signing on with Oprah Winfrey's network is a nice little way to kick this off for sure. So you were able to deliver the second season. So Oprah and OWN has 2 seasons of the specials, and now here we are at go time. Right, the show is going to air, and they're not just going to drip it out. They're doing a marathon. Is that correct?
They are. They're going to do all 13 episodes back to back, which is going to be arse numbing. Yeah. But hey, it's worth it.
Oh yeah. So that's another big. I mean, the kickoff of this is tremendous, because we are with Netflix and people consumption, television, whatever it is. It's addictive. People don't want to. Well, I can't wait till next week. It's like I want it now. You know, it's like they've turned episodic TV into a crack almost with this.
That's
people,
right. Yes.
And so I guess it's smart of them to do that, because they know if someone sits down to watch the first one, you know, instead of waiting for next week to watch the second one, they're going to be there all day, right? And so that's to me a perfect way to introduce this show. And so let's talk about that. Let's talk about this show now. But you know, like I said, the genesis and the evolution of the show to me was just as fascinating as the show. However, the show is definitely going to be something that is going to get people hooked for sure. So let's talk about the show and the housemates, right? Like I said, we have Hilly, we got Sam, we got Megan, Lewis, Lucy, 5 of them living together. So set the stage here and kind of give us a brief synopsis of what's going on. You know, how does this get introduced? How does this unfold where we meet the folks, the housemates?
Well, really, episode 1 is introduced by Sam, and he does the voiceover, and he takes you through and introduces you to all of the other members of the house. And at that point, what you have is you have 5 friends who've known each other for years. They're very close, but that also means that they're not always necessarily supportive. They're also very honest with each other, and also they argue, and also. As you see, what we follow with episode 1 is that there's up until that point, 4 of them had been living together, and then Megan moves in. And Megan is Lewis's girlfriend, but Sam secretly fancies her. Well, actually, not so secretly. He says
it's
to
pretty
Lewis,
obvious.
Yeah, and he says to Lewis that she's top quality. So
Sam doesn't seem to be able to keep a secret from what I've seen, right?
No.
I mean, he's out there, and Sam is he's the ladies' man. He's got no problem from what I've seen. He's a flirt, I guess, is what the other girls in the house would see. He'll walk up to any girl to start a conversation. That's not his fear, right? And I'll tell you what really drew me to Sam is when he's doing his Ricky Martin, because he seems fascinated with Ricky Martin as his idol, and him doing his Ricky Martin impersonations, and because that's, I guess, his idea that that's what he wants to be. And I'm wondering, because of the timeline of this show, certainly there's the irony, right, of Sam. At some point, he had to discover that Ricky Martin. There's a little bit of ironic twist about the conflict of Sam being the ladies' man and Ricky Martin. So he's come to accept that, I guess, pretty easily.
Yeah, Sam, I think Ricky Martin wasn't out when the show was shot. But Sam did have to realize down the line that maybe, although he still loved his music, Ricky Martin wasn't a role model for chasing the ladies. But he's kind of moved on to other models now.
Okay,
so.
Well, perfect.
Yeah.
So that's what got me with Sam. He's one of the first ones I really thought, well, this is incredible. This guy is a player. He has, no problem going up and talking, but it seems like it may get him into a little bit of trouble with some of the housemates. So you mentioned Sam and then Megan moves in, and Megan and Lewis. Let's talk about them. Lewis one is kind of a different. Has a different character or personality, much different personality than what a Sam has. But he's the one with the girlfriend in the house in Megan, right?
Yeah, that's right. Lewis is kind of very shy, very sweet, and Megan moves in, and she's also very quiet at that point. But really, as she moves in, she's 19 years old, and she's just finding her feet, and she's just becoming independent for the first time. And as the world opens up in front of her, suddenly Lewis, this quiet boyfriend who can't really get up the nerve to speak to her, isn't quite as attractive anymore. And she certainly begins to look around a bit. And I guess there's charming Sam, who's very sweet on her. And so it's a tricky time for the guys. I mean, they're all so close, but Lewis is a brilliant bloke, but he is definitely the opposite of Sam when it comes to the ladies. He struggles to speak to them, and to kiss them or hold their hand even is a bit of a challenge sometimes.
Well, can I tell you, and I imagine that you probably anticipate this, but when I first saw the premise of the show, and here's a house with mates of intellectually people with intellectual disabilities living together, I hate to say, and I don't know if I should be ashamed to say, that I had a much different picture of what this would be than when I looked at and saw, whoa, this is drama. He wants her and she's thinking about going to him. This is not what I expected at all. At all. Do you find that people have that kind of reaction that well, this is interesting? Because most people, like you say, when people would do shows, documentaries about folks with learning disabilities, intellectual disabilities, it was a much different story. Like you said, isn't it sad, or isn't it, or something around the Special Olympics or something? It's more of that heartwarming, kind of heart-tugging story. But this is real life. This is, they aren't running around crossing flags in slow motion every day of their life, right? They're living their lives. That's what most people, and I hate to say that, that's what we see. If we're seeing a lot of things, the quickness, this microwave society that we have on TV, if we're seeing something about someone with Down syndrome or learning disabilities, it's generally them, running across the finish line in slow motion.
Yeah, people are way too careful and they're always and too politically correct, I think, around this issue. Because actually what you do when you kind of like treat the guys too carefully is you actually you exclude them. So you can't, like you'll see in season 1, Sam gets confused because he fancies the lady boys of Bangkok. And Lucy has to put him straight and explain, actually, they're not ladies. And, and like, that's an important scene, because what's going on there is that Sam's getting confused in a way that many men might get confused seeing a lady like that. And Lucy, somebody else with a learning disability, explains to him, Sam, you're wrong. So it's important that kind of in the show that the guys sometimes can be laughed at, and sometimes, but always they're laughed at by other members of the household. And it's very important that the guys aren't somehow sort of like wrapped up in cotton wool. And so you've always got to show them in an uplifting way and be careful. And, oh, for goodness sake, don't upset them, or don't show how complex they are, and don't show that they can be awful sometimes. Like Sam sometimes and Hilly both have, both can be, can get angry and can be difficult. In fact, they all can. They can all be just as irritating and as nasty as anybody else can in society. And yet at the same time, they can be brilliant and funny. And, they must be allowed to express every aspect of themselves and not just be the cute kid with Down syndrome.
Well, that's why I want to put a spotlight on this, because one thing that I think is going to have huge impact culturally of this show is, like you said, that people are going to have to learn to put their political correctness aside and realize, because one of the first things, and I have to say, is when you do find yourself laughing out loud at something, a genuine laugh at something, you almost pull back and look around like, oh, should I be laughing at this? Right?
Yeah.
And I think this is going to have a lot of people facing that issue. Do you find that comes up? Have you talked about this? And I know that there was a study, I think at University of New York, you talked about you did a course that focuses on media and disability, right, at New York. And I don't know if they dug into that, but as far as people's reactions and how it makes people feel with that it's okay or when it's not okay, because the people, they censor themselves and it allows people to just be honest with themselves and it's okay. So do you feel that this show makes people feel it's okay and they don't have to censor themselves about their genuine feelings when they see something like this, because this is real life? This is what's happening?
I hope so. I mean, I think that there are, scenes that maybe will challenge people sometimes. But I think because when you watch the program, like I say, when Sam gets confused about ladyboys, I mean, I remember like one of our execs, Dan, saying that he had a friend who had also got confused in the same way about the ladyboys of Bangkok. So, I mean, it's like, this is, I think people might feel a bit nervous laughing sometimes, but what they've got to remember is that whenever we have situations in the show which are uncomfortable, generally they're being addressed within the show. So generally it will be somebody else. Let's say Hilly cries at one point, the other guys go to help her. So you're always seeing it through their experience. You're never kind of peering in and laughing at them. You're always laughing with Lucy at Sam.
I think that's an important point, I think. And I have to jump in and say, at least he was genuinely confused. There's a lot of fellas that are pretend to be confused, let's say.
Yes. Oh, really?
Yeah. I didn't realize. Okay. Yeah. So that's good. He's genuinely confused. But that is something that is genuinely, it's funny. It strikes a nerve. And I think that's where I think this has a huge cultural impact is that you don't have to censor yourself. That's one of the things I learned long ago, because when I was younger, I worked with some folks with Down syndrome in communities. And I was around that a lot. And I learned very quickly you're going to laugh because they do some pretty funny things, right? And you just have to think outside of that censoring yourself to do that, because it's not cruel what you're doing. You're thinking this is generally a great life, that this kind of stuff happens, and they're allowed to shake it off a lot easier than a lot of folks that don't have these disabilities. Do we find, and that's what I'm looking forward to see how resilient they are, that when something like that happens, how quickly they can bounce back if an hour later they're over it, and when there is conflict within the house, do they seem to get over it and be back to being housemates and genuine friends quicker than a lot of folks that don't have these disabilities?
I think they're pretty much the same as everybody else, to be honest. I think, they'll have their secret grudges and their feelings and yet their closeness. I don't think that they have like less memory or they kind of move on necessarily that much quicker. I mean, sometimes maybe their emotions might switch a bit faster, but I think nothing too noticeable.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I would say about the guys is that with the show, what I find is interesting is that because I remember when I first met the guys, I hadn't spent a lot of time around people with intellectual disabilities, so it was new for me. And so I was kind of like a little bit nervous maybe when I first met them. But what surprised me, and I think this comes across in the show, is that you forget about it so quickly. And, after a while, Sam's just Sam, and he, you forget that he has, an intellectual disability when you're chatting to him every day. He's just funny, and he's cracking jokes, and he'll crack jokes at your expense as often as, he'll do something where you laugh at him. So it's something where you just kind of get to know them, and you really quickly forget about the intellectual disability, for most of the time. And it's just occasionally that it crops up. And
one thing to say is that in the way that we were with the guys, we were very much led by Carol and David, who run the house, because this is their ethos. They really don't like, as we were discussing earlier, this whole kind of like careful approach and this way of kind of somehow this cutesifying then of people with learning disabilities, intellectual disabilities. They really feel strongly about that, and they like the guys to, push towards being as mainstream and experiencing the world for what it is as much as possible, and not being too careful and too protective of them. So because they're like that, and because the house is run like that, we are able to come in and just observe that and ask difficult questions. I mean, like lots of the interviews, you ask questions that, and you push them on emotions and things that maybe, people might be reluctant to do or think you shouldn't, but actually the guys will reflect and they will talk about how they're feeling in a very, intelligent way.
Yeah,
what the struggles are.
From what I see, and I want to bring up the other two that we haven't talked about, Hilly and Lucy. Hilly, it looks like, Mike can push some buttons fairly easily. She's, I guess, what I would call the diva is the only way I can describe it. Just about any show. She's the look, the walk, the attitude. That's what she is. So would that be a good characterization? I don't know what else to call her, the diva. And she's fascinating to see that. And again, something that was completely left field of what I expected to see from the show.
Yeah, no, Hilly is a strong character. She has one major meltdown per series, and when she has them, they're brilliant. She's very fun. She's a brilliant dancer. In fact, in season 2, her love life becomes very interesting. But season 1 is more focused on Sam and Megan, and she quietly smolders, but she always has an opinion on things.
Yes, and she's not afraid to tell you what she thinks either.
I can tell that from what I've seen. So there's a dynamic right there that normally, like I said, in a lot of reality show, it has to be contrived, but unnecessary here. One meltdown per show, I'm in. I can't miss one.
Per season.
Yeah, that's it. I think I'd be disappointed now if I don't say, "Hey, wait, where's Hilly's meltdown?"
Oh, you'll get a bit of chewed every episode.
Yeah,
that's perfect.
Chewed every episode. Yeah.
And then there's Lucy, which I think is one of the great backstories on this is Lucy and Sam, the ladies' man. They actually were in a long relationship. I mean, they in their young lives, but it looks like from early ages. I don't know if it was early teens or preteens, but they are said to have been dating, boyfriend and girlfriend, for like 9 years.
That's right. Yeah.
And did that end before the show, or did that
just before the show? Just before the show, because I think actually, because this pilot I've been working on, I think they'd done a tiny bit of filming before I came on, and they had the scene where Lucy actually broke up with Sam in that bit, actually, which would have been brilliant. So it was just before I came on, and she dumped him for flirting with other girls. Now he is impossible. It's always going to be a problem with Sam, I think. And she just wasn't going to tolerate it. So in episode 1 of the season, she's moved on. She has a boyfriend, but her and Sam, they've always been close and known each other. So she gets him, and she knows when he's kidding himself, and knows when to tell him to get his act together.
Well, poor Sam seems like he can't catch a break. Lucy breaks up with him right before the show starts. He finds out that the ladies are really fellas, right? He finds out his idol and he looks up to Ricky Martin may not be the person that he thought that he was. So I think Sam, he's learned how to deal with some ups and downs through this.
And the thing to say about Sam, amongst all the laughter, is that what's lovely and what makes him so fascinating is that although he's a great ladies' man, he's single, and he's trying to find, and he wants to fall in love. I mean, that comes across in the first episode. He says, he wants to fall in love. That's what he dreams of. He wants to get married one day. So underneath it all, classic, hero, he wants the girl and he wants something serious. But in the meantime, he's going to, be a ladies' man until he can find the right woman. Yeah,
which is probably not an uncommon scenario for a lot of men in this situation, for sure. And then, so Lucy, I want to talk a little bit more about Lucy. So her and Sam were together for like 9 years before the show. From what I see, Lucy has a new boyfriend, Nick, that he's not one of the housemates, but I guess she's in a relationship. But Lucy herself seems like she's kind of the one that is in charge of the proceedings in the house, or would be the what would we call the mother hen, the house mother. She's whether she's been given that title or she's just claimed it herself. She does seem to be the one that tries to keep things together, or at least put order in the house, or at least try to boss folks around. I haven't figured out if they actually follow that yet or not.
Well, you're certainly right. She is the mother hen. I guess she's the oldest of the gang, and she's naturally a little bit maternal in a slightly bossy way.
You say slightly. I didn't get slightly out of some of the scenes I saw.
Right, maybe I'm being a bit charitable. Okay. She certainly does sort of tell people what to do, but she gets them all. And, as Katy was saying earlier, for instance, with Sam, she, because she was his girlfriend for so long, she knows him, so he doesn't get anything by her. And she's pretty smart when it comes to, other people and knowing what they're, what they want, and when they're kidding themselves, and she won't let that get past her.
I mean, one thing that's interesting is when Lewis is struggling in his relationship with Megan, she's, often we have these great interviews with Lucy in her room where she's sort of telling us what's happening and what she thinks should happen. And she's always got an opinion on these things. And she's always right, to be honest. She really explains the emotions that are running behind the surface sometimes. But, what's funny is that she's not all seriousness, because at the same time she's out doing the karaoke. She's sort of quite a wild woman. She likes a drink. She's likes to party, and she likes boyfriends. So, she's very rarely single.
Well, yeah. You said the karaoke and the being out. That common theme. I don't know how many scenes I've seen in the pubs and the bars and even Lewis and Sam out drinking. I think maybe it's just what you guys in the UK must just have a much better time than us. I don't know what it is.
Oh, I don't know about that. I mean, one thing actually is that Sam actually strangely isn't much of a drinker. But yeah, everyone likes to go out for a drink and to socialize. And maybe me and Dan are a bit heavier than them.
Well, you got to have goals, right? Yeah. So here's where it comes to right now, and this all has unfolded, and folks can see this on Sunday, September 7th, 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, yes, on OWN, on Oprah Winfrey's network, OWN. And I know there's a place that before then, if people want a sneak peek, I think they can see it at oprah.com / the specials, right?
That's right. That's correct. Yeah, a little app going there with some of it. You can see some biogs of all the guys and little tiny films, and a clip.
Yeah,
of season 1.
I would encourage anyone, if you want to be hooked to watch this show, go watch the clips, the little vignettes they have where they introduce each one of the housemates, and believe me, you're going to instantly be pulled in to want to watch this show. So that's what it's come to. You are actually it's happening. You're premiering on the Oprah network. I mean, you got to be excited right now, right?
We're really excited. I mean, the guys are so excited too. I mean, what we're going to do, because obviously we won't be able to see it here, is we're going to have a party at their house. And we're going to be watching all the reactions on Twitter and Facebook, and we're going to pretend to have the marathon and play it anyway at ours. And we're going to make a big night of it. A late night, because it'll be very late here.
Of course. And unfortunately, the pubs may be closed at that point, right?
We'll get takeout.
Well, I can tell you, I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be watching this. And not only that, the social media phenomenon that happens across this, because obviously, from the web show and people sharing this, that's how, we came across this was, I think on Facebook, seeing where people sharing that. And I think that right there is going to be just the evolution of this, how this never would have happened 10, 15 years ago, the way that you were able, our show didn't get picked up, we'll do it ourselves. That was just completely beyond reach prior. And then to see how it has evolved and what I really feel that you're true influencers in the greatest sense of the word is that you stuck through this, you pushed through this, you went over obstacles that most people would have thought insurmountable and said, okay, well, that's it. That's enough. And then, of course, through a little luck, I love the way that just little moments make such huge changes. Those little things when you get that email on your phone, when these kind of things happen. And, I feel privileged to be right here sharing this moment with you, just a little more than a week before this happened. So I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing this. And like I said, we got bonuses because the backstory, the story behind the story, to me is just fascinating. The way that you persevered and pushed this through. And then, of course, the actual story of what we can look forward to on the show is just tremendous. So Katy and Daniel, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing this.
Well, thank you ever so much.
It's been lovely to speak to you, and thank you for the support. We love it.
Oh, yeah, fantastic. So, folks, there you have it. Watch the specials on Oprah Winfrey's network OWN Sunday, September 7th, 2:30 p.m., 1:30 Central Time. And I'd love to hear your feedback, but get out there, share this, because this really is groundbreaking. And I don't use that word lightly. It is groundbreaking what this show is going to do. And it's not only going to, you get to watch them take that ride through this, but I want you to pay attention to your own thoughts and go through that ride yourself, because it really is it's going to be a show that is far more than something you watch. It's going to be something that you really, really can get attached to. So until next time, Influencers Radio, just remember, you are the only real game changer.
You've been listening to Influencers Radio. To get all past shows and updates on future shows, visit influencersradio.com today or follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/influencersradio.